You have activated the podcast from the Psychon Network.
And now, on with the show.
Welcome to the Retrograde podcast, a show where we take retro games to the prom, promise to have them home by 10, but instead drive to make our point and get to third base. My name is Jack Marshall. I'm joined today by Anthony Hobday.
Hello.
Lysanne Fisher.
Hello.
And James McFadyen.
Hi.
In today's show, we're going to be discussing the video game Super Meat Boy, but before we do, let's have a brief blurb on the game from our succulent sirloin steak of a man, chief editor of Slycon.org, Brecky, Double K Thomason.
Super Meat Boy is an independent video game developed by Team Meat. Players control Meat Boy, a red cube-shaped character, as he attempts to rescue his girlfriend, Bandage Girl, from the game's antagonist, Dr. Fetus. The gameplay is characterized by fine control and split-second timing, as the player runs and jumps through over 300 hazardous levels while avoiding obstacles. The game was acclaimed by critics and lauded for its precise controls, retro artwork, and hypnotic soundtrack. Reviewers generally praised the game's challenge, although some warned that not all consumers would appreciate the harsh levels of difficulty present in the game. The game has been a commercial success and has sold more than 1 million copies across many platforms.
Thanks, Brecky. There we go. How are we, guys? It's been 2 weeks. Sorry, we should welcome back James, because he missed it last week.
Yay!
I don't know what you're talking about. I was here. I realised I was a bit under the weather. You know, my voice was sounding a bit strange. My points were perhaps not...
You lost your accent.
lucid.
And your name.
I was trying to fit in.
And your name.
But, I'm back on top form this week. Don't worry.
We missed you, James. What was wrong with you?
I missed you as well, Jack.
You can't ask what was wrong with
Have
him.
you got a doctor's note?
I don't mean you guys as a whole. I mean specifically you.
Oh.
Missed you very
What?
much.
You can't ask what was wrong with him. Maybe it was something personal.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to...
It was the... No, it's fine. You
Didn't
can
wanna
ask
pry.
him. It was the double cancers. I had a very serious case of the double cancers. I'm just now getting over it. It was pretty bad.
Arse and eye cancer. Sorry.
No, you can't say things like that. You can't say things like that.
He's opening
That's
up to
bizarre
us.
that you guessed exactly which two kinds of cancer. Wow.
Well, I hope they cure the eye cancer. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, me too.
It's good to have you back, though, James.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So yeah, what should we talk about? What did we get up to? I guess we can all talk about one thing we did this weekend. We all went to Gay Pride.
Yay!
Yeah, Brighton's like the San Francisco of the UK.
Yeah, it is. It's the gay capital of the country. So whenever we have a Pride weekend festival, it goes a bit crazy, and everyone joins in, has fun, and we all did, didn't we?
Yep,
Yeah.
the whole city has a massive party, and we were most definitely in attendance.
And I peaked well early. And you know what I learned? Gay men don't really like the song "It's Raining Men."
Really?
When that came on, I thought the place was going to go mental. We were all dancing in the street, and it came on,
Yeah.
and people kind of went, "Not this song again."
Keep in
Yeah,
mind
no, I
that
thought they were going to go mental.
keep in mind that while that is a ostensibly a homosexual song, or enjoyed by the homosexual community, I should say, Brighton is a community full of hipsters, so they're not allowed to like cliched things.
Ah, that's very true.
They cancel each other out.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But the funniest part, we were dancing with one of our friends who's homosexual, me and him, and Carly Rae Jepsen came on with "Call Me Maybe."
Oh, that was immense.
The first bar, me and him went, got mental, and I'm like, "Oh, what's the song is this?" It took about 4 bars, and she's like, "Oh," and it's like, that's quite embarrassing. I joined in with all the gays, went, "Yeah!"
No, I went mad when I realised it was on. You just
But
recognised
we
it sooner
recognised
than I
it
did.
way too early.
Yeah,
it was like
you did.
first rhythm, it was like, boom, it's Carly Rae Jepsen. That was it.
Jepsen.
Jepsen? Oh, God. Better not have her on the show then.
But yeah, we were most definitely partying hard this weekend. It was good. It was good fun.
I played another game over the weekend that I can reveal now with Anthony. He didn't even know I was playing it. Because basically last week Anthony made a ostentatious claim.
Ostentatious.
Ostentatious.
God, I was so close.
You were. Well done for trying.
Made a claim that it takes a lot to annoy him and he doesn't get annoyed easily. It takes a lot to
I
piss him
remember
off.
this
Oh,
game.
yeah, what happened with that? Did you?
Well, I decided, so I thought, okay, the challenge accepted. He didn't like it. Straight away he got nervous. But I realised I made some rules. I was like, 1, I'm not allowed to get physical. Because that's just, I could just punch him and he'll get annoyed.
You could just
And
touch his
2,
face and he gets
wasn't
annoyed.
allowed. He wasn't allowed to
Joking
know what was going on. And I asked a few people, and people agreed that I think what annoys Anthony, because everyone I think gets a bit annoyed quite easily if you hit the right nerve of the right thing to say. And I don't think Anthony likes being misquoted or misrepresented. So I thought, as long as I throw a lot of things at him and say, "You said that, Anthony, didn't you?" he'll get annoyed. And it worked, because he went home about 8 o'clock.
That's true.
Well angry. I went up to him and went, Terminator.
He wasn't angry. That's not why I know.
I went up to him and went, Terminator 2 is your favourite film, in Anthony? He was like, no. I was like, yeah, it is. You love that film. He's going, no, why are you saying this? I was like, it is. Because it's not my favourite film.
It was hilarious. Jack was spending nearly the whole day winding up Anthony.
Really?
And when he came,
I was sitting quite close to him when we were having the barbecue. I was sitting quite close to him, and I listened to so much of Jack winding up Anthony.
And whenever Anthony said to me, were we talking about that the other day? And I go, no, you must have been talking with someone else, Anthony. He's like, I'm pretty sure it was you, Jack. No, it wasn't me. No,
and it was you,
you're
wasn't
mistaken.
it?
Yeah, it was always me. Did that work on you, Anthony? Did I get you annoyed?
I didn't go home because of you, Jack.
He went home because they put It's Raining Men on and he doesn't like that song.
So it did make you annoyed, though. Did I win? I think I won.
I don't think so. I mean, if I got annoyed...
How can we annoy Anthony, guys? I think I did win, but...
You know what doesn't annoy me?
What's that?
Super Meat Boy!
Oh.
Oh.
I'm going to talk about the rest of the show. All right, Super Meat Boy, let's get on with that. If we have to. James, you chose it, and I have a feeling you're going to say this is the best game you've ever played, but go on.
No, it's not the best game I've ever played. It's the best platformer I've ever played. It's
better than DK
Donkey Kong Country 2?
Well, see, I've been thinking about this since we did that episode, and after having replayed that and then replayed Super Meat Boy, I definitely think that Super Meat Boy is much better. Because, I mean, there is no rose-tinted spectacle issue going on here. It's not something that I played in my childhood. It's just something that's recent and fantastic in almost every single way.
It's definitely better designed.
Should we explain how it qualifies as a retro game?
Yes, I mean, very simply, the rule we kind of set up was we would talk about games that are pre-2005, unless they are games that are very obviously retro-inspired. So a game like VVVV or Super Meat Boy would qualify. However, a game like Braid or Limbo wouldn't.
Yeah.
I think it's the amount
That's
of...
a bit shameful, because we're just saying graphically that we're...
Well, no, I think the
basing
crazy
it
amount of retro references in this game qualify it, because there's so many.
Even the acronym SMB is a homage to
Super Mario Bros. Yeah.
The creators even said that they basically were influenced by games like Ghosts and Goblins, Mega Man, and Japanese version of Super Mario Bros. 2. I mean, that's what they were going for. They wanted the clash up of those three. And, but James, so go on, develop a bit more why you picked this game, why you love it so much.
I just think that it's unique in that it's it's perhaps the only platformer I've played that's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's not the issue isn't collectibles. It's not about high scores or anything. It's literally about getting from one part of the level to the next in the most elegant way possible. Because I mean, you can complete the levels and you can progress to the next one. But to actually get the A+, good job badge, you have to do it in under a certain amount of time. And you can only do it in that amount of time if you figured out the most efficient way to get through the level.
Does it matter on deaths? I guess
No.
time.
No, it doesn't matter on deaths.
It encourages quick deaths and then restarting the level immediately. But I think that it kind of veers into puzzle game territory in that you have to look at the level, look at the layout, and then intuit what the fastest way to do it is going to be, and that's not always immediately obvious. So I think it's about very quick reactions. You have to be very good at hand-eye coordination, but you also have to be capable of looking at a level and discovering the most elegant solution to the problem, which is unique. So I enjoyed that.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. That's pretty cool. Okay, well, let's go with Lysanne. What do you think of the game? You're quite a platforming fan, so
yes.
go ahead.
I got Super Meat Boy when it came out in the Humble Indie Bundle. I knew of it before then. I just didn't get around to buying it, and then it was released. When was it? Was it Humble Indie Bundle 4 or 5?
5, I think.
It was
5.
originally released in April 2009.
In the Humble Indie Bundle?
Sorry, that's completely wrong. The
Humble Indie
original
Bundle
Meat Boy, which was a Flash-based game, was developed in 2008, and by 2009 had gathered 840,000 views on Newsground.
Right. Okay.
Super
well,
Meat
anyway,
Boy
so I got it in the Humble Indie Bundle. So I've had it for ages, and I do love it. It is a brilliant game. But I was lamenting this to James on Saturday when we were out. I am terrible at this game, and I get so frustrated and so angry. I cannot play it for a long period of time in one sitting. I have to leave it, and I can't even go back to it the same day. I have to come back to it the next day because I get so frustrated so quickly and easily at how rubbish I am at it.
Are you an easily frustrated gamer, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Very easily.
I would point out though that if I were playing it on a keyboard like you are, I would probably hang myself. I don't think I could handle it either.
Oh no, keyboard's fine because it's just your left, right, spacebar to jump and shift for special moves. That's it.
having played the game on keyboard and not mouse, just keyboard, and then on a joypad, it's like I can't even imagine the experience. It must be physically painful.
But see, when I was younger, before I got my Super Nintendo, I played games on a PC. And, things like Frogger and Space Invaders and Pac-Man and stuff like that. I'm used to that coordination of having my fingers like that and using spacebar and the cursors to play a game. Stop mimicking what I'm doing. So I'm miming with my hands the playing of it, and Jack's making me look stupid.
I was waiting for you to show us on the keyboard and your hands all crippled and bent over. The fact that it's on the keyboard doesn't faze me in that sense. The controls for it were much better than for Kirby. But I'm just rubbish at it because it's so quick and so precise.
As far as I can remember, when I first played this game and got to the final level, I went all the way through basically, I used keyboard.
When you say final level,
the final boss, not like all the Dark World and everything, just straight through the main story.
But the Dark World isn't really, in other games, the Dark World in air quotes is kind of just like an extra. But in this game, they are just different levels. I would say you got halfway. Yes. What I mean is I played a significant chunk of the game, got to the final boss, as far as I can recall, all the way through with a keyboard, and I didn't remember having any problem with it. Really?
Yeah, but now I'm playing it with a controller. I don't know, I think it's because the controls are digital. There's no, slow run speed, for example. There's run, and then you press a button to run faster. I think it works perfectly fine with keyboard.
We have this common thread we have a lot of times because obviously, as people imagine, playing these games, we played them on, some of us play them on emulators, on laptops and computers, stuff like that. The only thing I would say about Super Meat Boy in its defence is when it was released, they knew when they designed it that people might play it on a keyboard. So they must have made it accustomable for is that the right word? Accustomable for a keyboard.
They did, but even then,
I agree with James.
When you launch the game on the PC, I seem to remember there's some kind of splash screen that's either like a keyboard with a cross through it or like a.
It's just a 360 controller.
Yeah, it's a 360 controller.
Yeah.
But okay, fair enough. Anthony, what did you think of the game? You kind of touched a little bit on it there.
I think this game. Well, I love this game because it's basically. They took a concept that already existed, and I'll go into that later. But Super Meat Boy didn't invent the whole short levels, precision platforming, time attack, blah, blah. But they took it and designed it, I think, the best way they could, and it's probably the best example of that kind of design in the industry. And I think anyone can appreciate a well-designed game, whether they're good at it or not. So, I think it's great.
Graphically, and the sense of humour in the game is wonderful. Makes me laugh.
I think, I agree. I think it's a really good game.
Through the angry tears.
I think it's a really good game. I think it's incredibly well designed. I think graphically it's very, very clever. Despite the fact it's actually got quite a lack of a colour palette, it still manages to look brilliant.
Yeah,
there's a lot of red.
Well, it uses the contrast. Like a lot of the backgrounds are grey, and they use the fact that the characters to focus of the thing. Sound-wise, music-wise is fantastic. The controls are probably the tightest controls I've ever played in a game.
Yeah.
But saying all of that, I sadly am one of these people that slips. And again, like I say every week, it's not the game; it's me. I slip into the category that I did find the game not difficult to the point where it was unbearable to play. But what I find with games that I've noticed in me as a player is a difficulty curve as smooth as it was in Super Meat Boy. Most games I enjoy playing, the difficulty curve will normally build upwards to a boss, and then it'll peak at the boss, and then there'll be a while where the difficulty curve will lull for a bit afterwards. It'll give you a false sense of superiority when you're playing the game. For example, in Zelda, you might beat a boss and you'll be giving a new heart or a new tool or a new weapon.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of games where after you've got this special thing, you'll go back and you'll face the enemies you were previously having trouble with, and suddenly you can kick their asses because you've just managed to get this new weapon or upgrade. Now, I like that again because it gives you room to breathe. Super Meat Boy, as much as I do love it, it just had a steady slope. Every level got harder, I would say. And so it was always a constant thing. Like Lysanne says, that when you finish a level, there was no not time to breathe, but it was just straight to the next level, and it was rewarding, really rewarding, but without that element of time to kind of relax, it's something I struggle with in a game. Because I agree with Zan that I would do 3 levels and go, whew, that's enough Super Meat Boy for me. I'm tense. Yeah. But I think that's great because they did that on purpose. They're not going to go, oh, we didn't mean to do that. They knew what they were doing. They wanted to make every level as hard as it could and harder and harder. And I think that's brilliant. But just for me as the way I play games, it was at times too stressful to sit back. I couldn't play the game for an extended period.
It's not a game I would play to relax.
I don't think anyone.
It's not a game I would play to relax.
I don't think
at all.
anyone would play it for an extended period. I think the reason the levels are set up like they are is so that you can just do one or two and then say, right, I'm done with this. Goddamn. Ugh.
But it's funny you said it because I wouldn't say as much as I just said difficulty level. There were hard levels because of the fact that it's genius they've done it that you get unlimited lives, and then when you finish a level, you can see all the lives you used and how many did.
Oh, that's hilarious! I love that.
It was never really difficult, if that makes sense. It's just your patience that gets tested, and I guess your skill. Well, obviously your skill, but do you know what I mean? Like there is no, I don't want to say challenge, but one of you guys want to comment on that? Or
Yes.
Go on.
Do you want to go first?
No, you go.
Okay. Jack, have you
That's
ever
so polite? Oh,
have you ever played Trackmania?
that's the car racing game,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Were you a fan?
Yes. Well, to be honest, I guess I played it and liked it, but I never got hooked to the series or anything. Why?
Fair enough.
What's
Because
the point?
it operates under the same trial and error system. I think what you're describing as patience is kind of patience, but it's also I'd call it more tenacity. You know, it's about seeing what you want to happen and then making it happen. It's not just about mindlessly smashing your face against it until it happens to work.
Would you say it's about encouraging creativity in the way you play by letting you die?
Well, yeah, I suppose it's about learning. Essentially, it's about seeing a problem and looking at the system that you have and then fixing the problem, and also how quick your hands are.
Well, it's about drilling the ideal route, and as far as you can call that creativity, sure, because you have to discover it yourself. Or you could watch, replays, and
But are there multiple routes in the levels?
Yeah, but if you want like an A+, there's probably an ideal route the creators intended.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same with Trackmania. Although Trackmania, I don't think is as well designed as this in that respect because the tracks are obviously much longer.
And they're also all made by the community as opposed to a developer.
So if you make a mistake 30 seconds in, you have to restart that.
Yeah.
That's really annoying. Whereas Super Meat Boy, do a level right, it takes maybe 8 seconds or something. That's much easier to restart. But I wanted to say that you brought up difficulty, Jack. And this game made me realise, or made me pose a philosophical question to myself. And it's not often that I think philosophically about video games. But usually I just
lies.
Usually I just like explosions.
You lay awake thinking about them. Yeah.
No, I like happy to be blasted at my face. I like explosions.
Should I have killed that guy in that game today? Oh.
I love killing guys in games, but not in real life.
That wasn't a contemplative sigh. That was more euphoric.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, it was harp playing in the background. Memories.
Should I feel this
when
good?
when I shot that guy in the face.
Probably.
Anyway, no.
Go on, Anthony.
It made me realise that what this game proves overall, I think, is that there's no such thing as difficulty. There's only good and bad design. And I think any game that people call difficult that kind of gets in the way of you, like difficulty that annoys you, that's bad design. Whereas this game I never felt was difficult because I think it's designed so well that it encourages you to experiment and to die and to retry. And that doesn't really count as difficulty in my book.
But it's frustratingly difficult because you keep dying, and I find it incredibly difficult. Difficult is the word I would use to describe this game. I love this game, but it infuriates me and is incredibly difficult. I'm
struggling with your point. Are you saying the way because they take away any consequence because you can always just keep retrying? Are you saying that takes away the difficulty?
No, I'm saying that in games in general, if a game is well designed, then you should never think this is difficult. You should think
this is hard.
No, it's more about like the game doing something wrong versus the player doing something wrong, and that's a common debate. Like people praise games that make you feel like you did something wrong, not the game did something wrong. You're not frustrated at the game; you're frustrated at yourself.
But then, what language would you use to describe the slow in progress that happens when you can't immediately solve a level or do it? Like, what would that be then? Because you seem to be viewing like difficulty as an inherently negative concept.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
But I think you'd struggle to phrase what happens when you can't do a level immediately.
You could call it complexity, I suppose.
Yeah, but something can be complex while still being easy to do.
That's also true. What is difficulty, really?
Okay.
No, okay, but
no.
Definitions of difficulty aside, my point is that this game is so well designed that failing isn't a frustrating thing for me because the game encourages...
You're used to failing.
you could say that.
I would just say that the level design is so well done, and the controls are so tight and well responsive that whenever you fail, you never go that. The classic one is, I pressed jump. When you feel like you pressed jump, you didn't. With Super Meat Boy,
that's basically what I'm
whenever
saying.
you screw up, it was always you.
Yes,
screwing
it was.
up.
Okay,
yeah.
so maybe my point should be that it's difficult, but it's only because of the player's limitations, not because of the
I think
games.
what you're saying is that it's fair. It's supposed
Yeah.
to be fair.
Fair.
I think fair difficulty and unfair difficulty are two.
I was caught up in the allure of
No, I think
asking
it's
a grand philosophical question about video games.
No one wants to play a game. Like I always remember, Tomb Raiders always struggled with surprise deaths.
Yeah.
Where it was never your fault. You just wandered into a room, it'd be pitch black, and suddenly bam.
Oh,
In Resident Evil, if you pick up a shotgun, the ceiling just comes down on you, and if you're playing as Chris, you just die. It's like, that's a bit unfair.
I think a good example of that is Super Mario Kart, actually, with the rubber banding AI and the blue shells and
Yeah.
stuff. That's
Yeah.
totally unfair.
Yeah,
that's
Yes, that is unfair difficulty. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess there's a difficulty that people say things are difficult when actually it's false difficulty, and that's just bad design. That's what I'm getting at. Like the shotgun and the roof falls on you, that's bad design, I think, because if you never see it
we
coming...
covered in the Super Mario example, though, we covered how it makes it unfair, but it doesn't make it unenjoyable.
Oh, no, I mean,
Because
unfair games can
rubber
still be
banding
enjoyable.
sometimes can be great fun because it obviously gives people disadvantage. It makes the casual gamers easier for them to play
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I mean, there's always reason why I do it, but yeah, you're right. There are times when just bad design makes a game difficult when it shouldn't.
So
But
I guess
that makes a bad game.
I guess this game has true difficulty rather than fake difficulty.
Yeah, no, actually, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd say this is a genuine test of a gamer's skill.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
patience.
I
Very
like
important.
I like how far we've come, ladies and gentlemen. This is nice.
The first episode is just like, yeah, I
I
love
think
this
this is
game.
the first time we've ever reached a consensus about anything.
I know, we've got loads of time, so do you want
Should we
to
just
talk about
stop
the
there?
weather? Well, here you go. I looked up on a website called I thought this was gamershavenews.com, but it's actually gamershavenews.com. So I thought it was a bit weird. It's Gamershave News. But well, there can't be much news around games, but it's gamershavenews.com.
Well, no, isn't it in Neckbeard's website? No, it's not. I'm not offended. No, I take it back.
Gamershavenews.com.
This is Pen Island all
and
over again.
they studied into the difficulty in the game, and they said, my question to you, which I want to ask you guys, do you prefer games that restrict your lives and force you to be constantly alert or aware, or ones that allow you to run wild without fear of death being the be-all, end-all of your playthrough?
Former.
I think it depends on the game type.
Yeah, I don't think you can reduce it to absolutes like that. It's context dependent.
But, okay, so...
I like the limitations. I enjoy knowing the rules of a game and knowing how to do it. Like with Mario Galaxy, once I learned the rules, then it was quite easy to find things, like find stars, for example, because, there'd be a rock there and they'd be like, oh, right, okay, well... Now I know that behind that is probably going to be a star. And it's things like, in Donkey Kong Country especially, when you come out the front of a level, instantly the first thing I do is always try and go back.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
To see if there's anything there, because I've learned that that's what happens, because that's a rule, it's a limitation. And so I enjoy games that I can learn how to be awesome at by strategy, as opposed to things like Super Meat Boy, where it's just literally just click, 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 just do the best you can.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I don't know if I explained
I
that very
think
well.
That's a fair point.
I still love Super Meat Boy, but
Yeah.
I prefer games where I can use strategy.
I was going to throw something at James. I can't remember what episode you previously mentioned it in, but you had a criticism for a game because it was simply just a case of memorising what
That was
to
Super...
do.
No, it wasn't Super Mario
That
World.
might have been my
That
point
was
in
Adam.
Super Mario World.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
saying one of you, because I was going to say that Super Meat Boy, I would say, sometimes is also a lot of the levels. It will be a case of memory, of remembering. You learn the muscle reflex of how to jump and how much strength to put on the analog control to jump at certain points. That it does become a game of not trial and error, but like I say, memory. You're running around the level, you're going jump here, jump now, jump straight away, jump off.
Yeah,
I can't remember who made that criticism.
I
About
think that
another
was
game.
That was me about
Was it
Super
you?
Mario World. Towards the end, you get like rope memorization levels.
Okay.
Where things are jumping.
So
out
does
at
that
you.
not same apply to Super Meat Boy?
No, I think the lack of penalties and the short levels render that mute. And that was a point I wrote down. That I think one of the reasons this game is so well designed for what it is because they make it hard to succeed but easy to retry. And so actually getting to that end point is quite hard, but trying again is easy. Whereas, say, in Super Mario World, and I wrote that down as well, my criticism of that was because the penalty for failure is much worse because you fall down a bottomless pit, for example. You have to go back to either the midpoint or the start point of the level. And then you've got a couple of minutes of doing the same thing again, trying to avoid the same enemies. And if you keep running into the same problem, then it starts to get frustrating for me. That's where I get frustrated. But Super Meat Boy, it's 8 seconds per level.
It is pretty much instantaneous.
What do you think, Lysanne? What do you think the psychology is behind the fact that at the end of the level, which is my favourite feature, it shows you all of the deaths that you just did? I don't think all of them actually, but it shows you the last 50, say, of your character jumping around the level. I think it shows you all of them.
I'm pretty sure it's every single one.
I think it's all of them.
It's every single one.
Yeah.
Why do you think they did that?
For lols.
Yeah, it's
pretty funny
pure
to suddenly see and you see all of your failed attempts, and then suddenly out from the ashes rises this little Super Meat Boy who just flies through the air and finally snogs Bandage Girl.
Do you know how many I got all the way to Bandage Girl and I'll for some reason jump over her into a spike? I get to her and then jump into a blade when I was like, why didn't I just land on her? Oh.
Always land on the girl, Jack.
Always land on the girl.
Why can't you ever find love, Jack?
I keep jumping into razor blades. No problem.
Razor blades always get in the way.
I do. We had some of our listeners wrote in. I asked on Twitter for people to give comments on what they thought of the game, and the general consensus from a lot of people was that they really enjoyed it, but they did find it incredibly hard. In particular, one person said, "At the moment, I've completed the light world of the first 4 worlds and have reached 5,000 deaths." Now, I didn't find it that difficult, but do you think that's too much? Do you think it's too difficult at times?
I think the average person would not have died 5,000 times by that point, so...
Let's not insult our listeners,
Well, that guy is clearly mentally deficient, and I don't think his opinion should be considered in the slightest. But if we're humouring him, I don't think it's too difficult. And even if it was, is difficulty inherently negative? Again, is that just because not everyone can get to the end, does that mean that they should be able to? They knew what they were buying. It was like they still have the same product as everyone else. Does it devalue the game?
It's like I was saying to Anthony, you've just got to get better at it.
Exactly.
I don't think our participant listener is mentally deficient. Just go on record saying that.
Sorry. I'm sure if we got to know you, I would love you, but...
I also think that gamers exist on a bell curve and that some people might find this game unfamiliar or difficult, and more so than someone who really wants to put the time in. I'm sure you did, James.
Yes.
And it probably just doesn't agree with... I have pretty bad reaction times, so that affects me in some games.
Your reaction time's better than mine, though, because when we played that game where you slapped the hell out of me, I don't even... Was that a game, or were you just hitting me? I don't remember that.
Since this is going to go on public record, it was a game.
Is that the one you play in the dark? Got it on your own at night, I think.
I still got the bruises. No, your reaction time's better than mine. It's not that bad. You're selling yourself short, man.
Wait, is this an actual game? I thought you were making some kind of homoerotic joke.
Talking about slapsies.
I think we're
talking
about that's what he called it.
Oh, you're talking about
people who
slapsies.
don't know,
Oh, okay.
like your hand in front of you in the form of a...
You put your hands together
like
in front
a prayer,
of you.
yeah. And then you get to try to slap the person in front of your hand. If you miss 3 times, they get to then take the go of trying to slap you. So you're good at that, Anthony, are you?
Well, apparently against James, I can't remember it, but...
That was painful.
We tested our reaction times in school, and mine were probably the worst in the class. And I find that does hinder me in some video games.
Did you do the classic dropping a ruler?
Yes.
And when you grab the ruler, how far down it goes?
Yeah.
I was really good at that.
I was really
bad.
good at that.
I used to... I mean, the ruler hadn't even dropped yet, and I was grabbing it. It was brilliant.
And so I might have died a lot more times than James did, for example. I didn't, save the stats from my first playthrough.
Well, you could almost argue in this game that it's not really a measure of how many times you die, it's how good you are at it. Because...
Well, yeah, because as James said, it's
doesn't
trial and error.
I guess that doesn't make
would you
sense.
use
because...
to measure how good someone is?
Not
by how few times they die.
Yeah, no, that's not valid. Yeah,
just sticking with the game ordinarily just...
I'm so good at this, I've been playing it for 5 years.
I guess, actually, he didn't say, though, I don't know if he was trying to collect every collectible, because to be honest, if you went after the bandages, and you all know my problem with games that I just get from A to B, so I completed the light world, and then I started playing, and there was like retro stuff, and there was bandages, and there was like a dark world, and I went, nope. Not going to happen, Super Meat Boys. See you later.
You've maybe done like a third of the game then, because again, like I was saying earlier, the Dark World isn't just like an optional, slightly different version. It's totally different levels.
I agree with you, but I completed it. Got a nice little the end. The game never said, "Now go back and do the other ones." I just went, "Thanks, game. I had a great time. Glad to be here with you. See you later."
support Jack's decision to take the critical path.
Yeah, it's not my fault if they didn't force me to play them. If they forced me, I'd have gone, fair enough. I've got to do this to complete the game.
I think that's for people who want to have more Super Meat Boy in their lives.
Well, there's 300 levels, which is hella lots. And they were originally, I'll have to try dig up the trivia on this, but they were originally not going to have 300. They were going to do a multiplayer feature and a co-op feature. They went, nah, let's scrap that and just put in loads more levels.
Oh, really?
Which I think's a lot better for
Co-op
it.
could have been cool. I don't know how it would have worked.
I don't know how it worked
Have
either.
2 Super Meat Boys.
Probably going in different places.
Dear.
I'm guessing it would
And
have
there's
been.
2 of you jumping through, and it's a race to.
That's beautiful.
I know because it's co-op, so you'll be working together.
I'm guessing it would have been co-op specific levels where you go and press different
Yeah,
buttons at different
yeah.
times, like Portal 2 co-op.
I wouldn't be able to play that. You say it'd be really good. I would only play it with someone who is either obviously of equal level of me, or I wouldn't even want to play it with someone who's a lot better. Because if you ever tried to play Portal 2 in co-op with someone who's rubbish at it, it's like banging your head against a wall. It's like, just put that barrel thing over there. God damn it, it's unbearable. And Super Meat Boy would be excruciating if you're doing really well. I guess if you didn't both, like if one of you died and the other person didn't, that'd be alright because you could just wait for the other person to catch up with you. But even then, you'd be like, just jump over the razor blade, will you? Like that. You spoke earlier about a game that you think this game ripped off.
Ripped off?
Not ripped off, but this wasn't the first game to do the short
Oh,
levels,
yeah.
quick flow.
I realised today that it's very reminiscent of N and or N+,
Oh yeah.
which was also a Flash precision platformer game in little short level arenas.
They
You had
also
to-
made that an Xbox Live Arcade title, right?
Yeah, that was N+, like they upgraded it. Basically the Super Meat Boy of Meat Boy
Yeah.
was N to N+. And that was more about collecting coins, getting the best score for a level rather than the best time. But it was similar, and there's a lot of references in this game to that, like the missile launchers that follow you around, the laser beams
Oh god, yeah.
from like come out of eyes and stuff. All that stuff was in N and N+, so I think there's a good chance that Team Meat took inspiration from that.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but speaking about that and the things like eye shootings, I know you're saying it's N, but what do you reckon the overall? Because the overall style of the game, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint. I mean, the storyline is a Super Meat Boy trying to rescue his girlfriend, Bandage Girl, from Dr. Fetus, and
It's a classic Victorian melodrama, I think
you'll
you'll
do
find.
that again. Oh dear.
But it is, it's exactly the same.
It is exactly the same. But the
He has
11
a top
themes
hat.
are things like the city, the end, I think Apocalypse, and then there's one called The Internets, or Internets or whatever.
Tinternet.
Tintinets. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not from the internet. But
You
Don't
definitely are.
tell lies, Jack.
I am. I wish I could live there. But what do you reckon the kind of style choices were over the game?
I think it's just basically a pastiche of various different
Yeah.
elements. There's no real cohesive.
And to make it
Like
nice and
inspiration.
gruesome, because platformers aren't typically gruesome.
They're very fluffy.
Yeah, and furry and lovely and sweet like Kirby and Mario
Yeah.
and everything like that. Whereas Super Meat Boy, you know, you've got all these massive razor blades, and it is
It
quite
shows-
satisfying actually when he does. Like the first time he jumps onto one and the blood spatters over the blade for the first time, and then it's like,
Yeah.
aww.
It's the fact that it stays there as well for every subsequent
Yeah, it stays
attempt.
there for every time, so you can. It's just there, constant reminder.
Do you have a point you'd like to make, Anthony, as you raise your hand in the air so
Raised his
gently?
pen in the air.
Pen in the air. Go on, Anthony.
Well, first of all, I'd like to hear James say more artsy words like pastiche and cohesion.
Pastiche isn't an artsy word.
It was in this context.
I didn't say
It
cohesion.
is in my world.
Didn't you?
No.
Oh.
I said
I
subsequent.
cook pastiche.
I'm sure you said some other big word.
Maybe. I like big words.
Oh,
Bit of
Jack.
pastiche, bit of parmesan on it. Oh, lovely.
Oh yeah, parmesan pastiche. I love it.
Oh.
It's one of my favourite dishes, Jack.
I find it a bit cheesy actually.
Ooh.
Anyway, my point was related to this. Probably not going to get on the chance to say it in the episode, so I thought I'd rush it in here. It seems that Macmillan, specifically, who is one half of Team Meat, really likes to marry cutesy and the morbid, because Super Meat Boy,
Valid.
he's a really cute blob of meat, and he's got a cute girlfriend, and Dr. Fetus is pretty cute, even though he's an evil genius.
For a fetus.
For a fetus. Fetuses are cute.
No, they're not, man.
You just gotta wash them off.
Feet.
And his second game, which he didn't do with the other half Team Meat, was Binding of Isaac, which had all these really strong religious, morbid imageries.
Yeah.
But that was also cutesy because you were playing, I think, another fetus.
It was. I don't know. It was
No,
just a small
Isaac,
child.
small child.
yeah, Isaac was a baby.
And you're using your tears to kill flies and stuff, and it's cutesy, but it's pretty morbid as well. So I think that's just his.
Kind of like salad fingers.
Team
Yeah. Well,
Team, Team Meat, and I asked this James the other day, and I kind of got it wrong, but they're a very ballsy development team because, like, for example, Sony were initially very disinterested in the game. They told them, no, they're not interested. So as part of that, Team Meat entered into contractual obligations that prohibited Super Meat Boy from ever being sold on the PlayStation Network.
I'm pretty sure that's just Microsoft. They have a lot of stuff like that.
It apparently was a choice of Team Meat. They were they kind of bear held onto a grudge with Sony for saying that to them when Nintendo and Microsoft kind of not open arms. So like, yeah, we'd be interested. Sony went, no, we're not interested.
That's actually, that's particularly notable because most people claim or seem to claim that with indie games, Microsoft are so much worse than Sony.
So I think at that point, at the point that Super Meat Boy was being developed, Sony was basically a non-starter.
Maybe. Yeah.
And because XBLA was...
I think Microsoft don't get slagged off for not being supportive of indie, but more the fact that their indie marketplace on the thing is so badly treated.
It's also really restrictive.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of bad stuff about their
really?
downloadable content system, and that you have to charge for it, and you can only have like 5 different iterations, and then you're done or something.
And
fair enough.
as far as I know, if you enter into a contract where you sell the same content on both Xbox and PS3, and it's downloadable, you have to provide the Xbox content at least on the same date, preferably earlier. So they won't let you provide content on the PS3 and then Xbox, so that it's PSP exclusive for a certain amount of time.
Fair enough.
So they've got some pretty harsh restrictions.
Which is weird when they also let games through, like, have you seen some of the, like, Super Prank Call game? And there's a couple of games which are just literally, there's nothing. There's a one game called Why Did I Buy This Game? And it's a picture of a guy just sitting at a desk in his hands, his head in his hands, and every so often he'll just shake. It's the whole game.
Are you sure that's probably Xbox Live indie games, right?
In Xbox Live Indie Arcade, yeah.
Because Xbox Live Arcade is different.
Oh, you're talking about that? Oh, okay, you're talking about Arcade. Oh, okay, sorry, I was talking about the Indie Arcade.
Was Super Meat Boy released on XBLA
It was XBLA.
Yeah, it was never in the Indie Arcade section. I was going to ask another point of view about the games and graphics stuff. I was going to say, actually, the graphics, it shows how much of an impact they have, because when you get to the bit when you play the retro version of the game, it's so colourful, it's almost a bit of a shock. It's like, oh, lovely. And it shows actually how different the game could have been.
I know, especially as well with the implementation of like a life system. It's so frustrating. Like I'm sure they considered at one point having a life system, but I'm very glad they just restricted it to the retro part, because I did not do that because it was terrible.
I'm sure that's just because they were like basically collectibles, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't want you to have infinite retries on those collectible
it's basically
items.
hard mode.
Yeah.
Do you have any other points you want to make, Anthony?
Yeah. I realised I was actually watching a speedrun while I realised this.
They must be so good at it. They must be brilliant.
I think it was 19 minutes or something.
What, from start to finish?
No, that's not all 300 levels. That's the minimum requirement. So it's
just the light world.
All but 3 of the levels in each world, then the boss, and only the light level, only the light worlds. Yeah. But I realised that like they took inspiration from Super Mario Bros. 2, for example. But the difference between this and more traditional platformers, aside from the Trackmania style retry as many times as you want, is that the characters' abilities in this game never change, so that you can become an expert in those pretty early on.
Well,
wait, hold on. Oh, okay. You're not talking about unlockable characters.
No, I'm saying like the main character.
Some of those are really different.
No,
really
and
cool.
all that changes is the world around you, like the environment.
Yeah.
And so that's what you have to react to. Whereas something like Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 2, you get those upgrades, and so your abilities do change. And the world around you obviously changes as well, and new enemies come in and everything. But you have to hope that you've got the right abilities to maximize your potential. Blah blah blah. Super Meat Boy, you've got the tools right from the beginning that you never really get rid of.
You are the tool,
and so you know exactly what. You know exactly what needs to be done. It's easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's an awesome feature of the game. Well,
whereas like flying in Super Mario World is not easy to learn.
Rubbish as well.
It did take me years to get as awesome as I am at it.
And you have to know how to do that to get certain stuff in the game, whereas in this game, you've got everything you need right from the start.
I belong to a very select group of platform gamers, in the fact that if I ever play a platform game that has a run button, I might as well celebrate that, sellotape that run button down, because I never stop running. If they give me an option to run, I'm running. Like Super Meat Boy, he leaves it's a bit weird, a trail of blood behind him when he runs, which is a bit strange.
He's a block of meat.
Are you guys the same as me, that you always run?
I always do. However, in Super Meat Boy, no. I was bad enough as it is, just him going at normal speed. I mean, every now and then, obviously, you have to use run to escape things and to make your jumps go better and stuff. But no, too difficult. Normally, I do.
I think that's why Lysanne found it more frustrating than I did, or difficult. Because I realised during my first playthrough a couple of years ago when it was first released, that it seemed like the levels were designed for flat-out running, 99% of the time. And so I just held down the run button from the beginning and learnt the levels that way without letting go of run. And I got through them pretty quickly that way. It seems like the trajectories of jumping through the razor blades and everything is designed for never letting go of the run button.
I think that the difference between running and not running is a very deliberate design choice that they've implemented into not necessarily all of the levels, but when you get into the later parts of the game, especially the later Dark World levels, you really do occasionally need the precision that not running gives you.
Yeah, no, I definitely came across points in some levels where I realised flat-out running works up to this point, but right here I have to stop running to do this jump. And so I like that because it was trial and error, but I think running more often than not is a good thing in this game. And they've kind of encouraged that, flat-out mentality. Especially since you can die from running flat-out and then just go back and start again.
Yeah. I read a couple of reviews of the game of people saying that it was a throwback to games of yesteryear, of arcade game stuff. And I would actually very disagree with that.
Really?
Mostly because of the live system. Like, I understand because the games of yesteryear, arcade games, I mean, the reason they were so hard was because they were trying to steal your money, and that's why a lot of games, when they came onto consoles for the first time, when they were ported over, difficulty wasn't altered. So games were like famously hard on the Atari and
Nintendo hard.
Exactly. Whereas Super Meat Boy, as we kind of discussed, it is a very hard game, but not punishing because you don't die, so to speak. You just have to keep user patience. So I kind of argue that it's not. It's a tribute to retro games. It's I guess inspired by maybe like a memoir, but I wouldn't say it is anything like an old arcade game.
I think they're just drawing on the elements of old arcade games and eliminating the irritating or unpleasant ones, the ones that get in the way of having fun.
I think it's got a very modern design sensibility.
Yeah.
And I think most of the
I
retro
guess
stuff
that's
is just,
what I'm going
it's
for,
fan service. So you see it and think, oh, that's pretty cool. There's also modern fan service in there. I noticed in one level, in the factory world, I think, there's a bit where you're on the rooftops and there's white pigeons flying around. They fly off the roof when you run past them. And that reminded me of
Cannibal.
Oh yeah, the guy who did the soundtrack for Super Meat Boy did the soundtrack for that as well. So
The two guys who made it, I haven't got what are their names? Edmund Million and Million, sorry, and I haven't got the other guys' names, sadly. But they've been really good for kind of. Sorry, go on.
Like Ralph.
No, you said Edmund Million. It's Edmund McMillan.
And it's like, is it Ralph?
The look doesn't matter.
Fevens?
The Mook matters.
Fevens.
He's not James Fadyen. He's James McFadyen.
What?
He said the Mook doesn't matter.
The Mook always matters, Jack. Get it right now.
Don't tell a Scotsman the Mook doesn't matter.
I will stab you.
I guess, yeah.
With his long sword.
Look at McDonald's. If I said
Donald's.
Donald's, it wouldn't make any sense.
Let's go to Donald. Who's Donald?
Donald's, yo.
Who's Donald and why are we going
It was
there?
also programmed by Jonathan McEntee.
No, the programmer's last name starts with F. It's like Fevnes or something. It might be pronounced Fanes.
I turned my phone off, otherwise I'd Google this right now.
Oh dear. Well, I'll apologise and add it in. I'll add it in later. I'll edit in me just going, the game was made by so and so. Right there. But no, I was going to say they actually really kind of they're really open in the environment of sort of indie gaming. For example, they've Meat Boy's made cameo appearances in the games Bit Trip Runner and Bit Trip Freight, as well as the Xbox live arcade game Ilomilio.
Oh,
which
Bit Trip Runner. It's another one I've got, which is so hard.
A parody.
I love it, but it's so hard.
A parody Flash game was made by called Super Tofu Boy, was released by the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. So on December the 1st, 2010, to promote veganism. They made it in December 2010 to promote veganism. In response, Team Meat Boy added its own interpretation of Tofu Boy to the PC version of the actual Super Meat Boy in response. So they're very open to kind of that. I'm sure
great.
some of the unlockable characters in Meat Boy, I think. Is it one of the characters from Bit Trip Runner into
Yeah, there are lots. The character from Gish, another indie game. The character from Braid.
Well, Gish was made by...
Oh, of course, Braid's in there, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. The head crab from Half-Life.
Oh, really? I didn't get that one.
Yeah. Steve from Minecraft, isn't it?
Well, Super Meat Boy does belong... If in 10 years' time people are looking back at the rise of indie games, Super Meat Boy belongs in the sort of darlings of the first wave of great indie games. I would put Braid and Limbo and Minecraft and Super Meat Boy.
World of Goo.
World of Goo. Yeah.
Almost to an extent, I almost want to lean towards Bastion as well.
No, Bastion's too late.
I think Bastion's a bit too late, but because
Yeah,
Super Meat Boy was, I think Super Meat Boy was released in 2010.
I thought you said 2009.
Meat Boy, the Flash game, which was about a year before, which I remember playing. Actually, that was before. And Cannonbolt's another one. Cannonbolt. Cannibal. That's another one I would add to the indie darlings. Braid, I think, was one of the first I ever played.
Braid was the first big one.
Yeah, I remember that one. People going, "Wow, this is awesome!" The first one that even showcased Xbox Live Arcade is not just ports of old arcade games. I remember playing Braid and going, "This is fantastic." But Super Meat Boy followed very shortly, I'd imagine. But yeah, and it's in the Indie Humble Bundle now. And also, I wish I'd bought it, but I didn't get the chance. The collector's edition and the ultimate editions, which are quite cheap now, you get them for like £10, £11, are fantastic. Good old big PC boxes. You get a T-shirt, soundtrack, art books, a little plush toy. It was on Amazon. I looked. It was £11. I was like, I wish I'd bought it and brought it along to the show. But yeah.
Do you get a map?
A map,
a world
of
map,
the tiny
map
little
Hyrule.
of. No, you don't.
Do you get a code wheel?
Did you guys see this week that the Black Ops 2 Extreme Ultimate Prestige Edition, which is like $199, is going to come with a hover drone?
Is it actually like an RC drone?
Yeah, that flies in the air.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it meant that or like an in-game unlock.
There's loads of in-game ones, and the box it comes in is a replica of the care package. So
Yeah.
it's like if you take that home from game, people are going to think you're carrying home a bomb or something. It's huge. It's insane, and I prefer these kind of Super Meat Boy style, where it's less, but you get the T-shirt, you get cool little things in it. Not.
I think that's just the difference between people who know their fan base and people who don't know their fan base.
Yeah.
I think it's the difference between being made with love and not.
And being made for money.
Hatred.
So you're saying a Black Ops 2 team don't make their games with love? They just go, get this out on time.
How can you make a game with love when it's all about killing people?
Yeah, this game's about
Super
a
Meat Boy.
blob of meat
Super
running
Meat
around.
Boy, he happens to die. He comes back, he reincarnates very quickly.
The game, was released on October 20th, 2010, Super Meat Boy.
Seems like a lot longer.
And the two developers were Edmund McMillan and Tommy Raffinez.
Yeah,
Raffinez.
You're really close. You're
Raffinez.
close.
Composer Danny Baranowski.
Yeah.
Why can't it be called John Smith? For God's sake.
Bloody foreigners.
And the good news is...
I'm foreign, it's alright.
Eastern Europe make the best video games at the moment.
Wait, what? No, they're from Western Europe.
Huh?
They're not from Eastern Europe.
Composer Radovanovsky? That must be Russian.
Oh, Jack! Stop it!
Aren't they all American?
Are they? I thought they were... No, I'm pretty sure Edmund McMillan is American and the other
I'm pretty sure he
guys-
lives in America because I read that they are an opposite ends of the country.
Yes. God damn, I do remember this bit trivia.
All right.
They only met about 4 times over the process of actually making the game.
Oh, wow.
And when they were making the game, they commented on the incredibly harsh, forced on them by, I think it was Microsoft, production schedule they had to go through, where they were working for the final 2 months of development. They worked daily, slept 5 hours a night, and frequently forgot to eat. A process that McMillan said he would never voluntarily go through again. That's because Microsoft...
Is that why the game's so difficult?
No, that was just...
No. Just that was
Okay.
finished.
That's why it's
for
all
the
about
Xbox
meat.
version.
Right.
Because they were so hungry.
Clever. And luckily, though, it was worth it because the game reviewed incredibly well. Game Rankings has it at 91%. Metacritic has a 90. Eurogamer 9 out of 10. Eurogamer are famous for being a bit harsh to games, but Game Informer 9 out of 10. Games Rate, there's loads. Games Rated 9 out of 10. Game Trailers 9 out of 10. IGN 9 out of 10. Official Xbox Magazine 10 out of 10. PC Gamer 90. Xplay 5. Joystick 4.5 out of 5.
Wait, hold on. IGN gave a game a 9 out of 10.
IGN gave it a 9 out of 10.
Whoa,
Yeah.
man.
And they're so trustworthy.
High praise indeed.
9
There's
out
no
of 10 from
review,
IGN.
no review from GameSpot because the guy didn't get paid enough.
They didn't advertise with them, so nobody to fire.
But that brings us nicely on to what we think of the game, into the retrograde part of the show. And it was James's choice. And something quite funny's happening that I've got to mention is that the sun started going down and we're sitting in this room recording and it's now getting quite close to pitch darkness in here.
This is ominous.
It's nice.
You're
It
illuminated by
was
the
so
streetlights.
sunny when we
I
started
know.
recording, and now it's gone dark.
We're slipping out of summer and into
Winter. Winter's coming.
yeah.
Man.
And it's getting pitch
Game
black.
of Thrones happening.
Oh, that'll be next April. It'll come
Oh
out.
god, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Banter was at the start of the show, guys. Let's move on.
Let's not talk about the changing of the
It's
seasons.
all right. Dexter's back on in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. How are we grading it, James?
Yeah, what are we doing, James?
Well,
We're going to grade it based on meat, I
Are
reckon.
we
or
doing it
something
on
like that.
steaks?
If this was a type of meat, what type of meat would it be? And why?
I'm going to go... Can I go first? Yeah.
Yes.
I am going to go with a ribeye steak.
Oh,
Because it is a sublime cut of meat. However, if not cooked properly, then the fat doesn't disintegrate well enough, and so therefore it can be extremely chewy and a bit difficult to eat. So yeah, I'm going to give it a ribeye steak.
I kid you not. I used to be a butcher, by the way. I'm a trained butcher. That is literally exactly what I was going to say. A ribeye
Oh
steak,
my God!
because it's
Get
full
out of my
fat.
brain.
It's full of fat and a lot of flavour, but if you don't cook it right, it can be very tough. So I'm going to completely agree with Zan and say, yeah, ribeye steak. Very lovely piece of meat.
When cooked properly.
When cooked properly.
Only when cooked properly. Anthony?
Given that I, like to think I understand this game pretty well, the design motivations and all that stuff, I'm going to rate it as Kobe beef, which happens to be the most expensive beef in the world.
Yeah.
All that stuff about cooking it right is true, but it's also way better than this ribeye crap these guys are promoting.
It's also Japanese, unlike the game.
Yeah, and I obviously mentioned
Apparently
it.
it's very overrated as well, Kobe beef.
Nope.
It's very Japanese, unlike the game.
Yeah. It's factually accurate. They feed the cows beer.
They do,
Or
and
do they
massage
wash
them
them in
every day.
beer?
No, the cows drink beer
wash
and then
them in
massaged
beer.
every day.
They
And they
marinate the live
feed
cows
they
in
feed
beer.
the cows sometimes, so they like double the meat.
Oh, that's crazy. I like it.
Well, I've been
Double
I've been to Kobe, Japan, and had Kobe beef, so I know what I'm
So is
talking
my
about.
mum. She said it wasn't very nice.
I
Are
thought
you
it
going
was
to argue with
amazing.
Lysanne's mum? Come on, mate.
Yes, I am. I regularly do.
No more lifts for you.
I thought this game was great, and I thought Kobe beef was great, so I'm giving it Kobe beef.
Fillet steak is the best one.
You're
everyone
not
knows
very
that.
good at like drawing a picture on these. You just normally go, it's like that thing I really liked, so it's like that. There was no imagery in that. There was no metaphor. You
Well-
can't just go, it's like a lamb shank because I really like lamb shanks.
I do like lamb shanks.
I did start to talk about why I thought it was like Kobe beef, but the two of you were having a sidebar, Jack and Lysanne. you weren't even listening. And so I just went back to the simple stuff because I had to draw you back in somehow.
You just should shout out a rude word. We would have gone, huh? What? Start listening again. Sandwiches.
But James,
What are you giving it?
Well, I think that I'm going to give it a chorizo out of 10 because
Love
it's very,
chorizo.
Yeah, man. Because
I
chorizo is
love a bit of
very red,
Yeah.
very red, much like the color palette in the game. There's there's some brown in there, some white. And when you eat too much of it, you get very upset and angry and a bit confused.
also like
I
Super Meat
agree.
Boy, if you fry it, it's delicious.
That's true.
Not really like Super Meat Boy at all, but if you fry a chorizo, it's delicious. I just wanted to fit
It's
that in somehow.
chorizo, by the way. The
Well,
Z is pronounced as a TH in Spanish.
I think it depends in the
Chorizo.
Like
depends
you've
where
got
you
a
come
list.
from.
Put him?
Like you've got a list.
Yeah.
Chorizo.
Well, I think people in
Chorizo.
certain parts of
Chorizo.
Spain speak with a lisp,
Chorizo.
so I think it depends on where you come
Well,
from.
yeah, like
Chorizo,
you're
mate.
supposed to say gracias as well.
Well, I think it
That's
depends on the
Spanish.
part of
Oh,
Spain
I
you come
didn't
from.
I say
It's
thank
proper
you.
Spanish.
Well,
Small
that's like
Spanish.
saying that Liverpudlians don't speak proper English.
They don't.
Well, we're not going to get onto that, but I agree with James.
Says the Scotsman.
You monsters.
So, good game. I think that's probably scored best we've got out of us. I think that evens out to like a
Fillet
a
steak.
good sandwich. is what I'm
9
saying.
out of 10.
That-
Hunter's
that-
sandwich.
A
A
sandwich
hunter's
is not a
sandwich.
type of meat.
No, it's a hunter's
Well,
sandwich. Shooter
if you
sandwich.
put everything we want, if we put everything we said into a sandwich, that'd be one tasty
That's just
sandwich,
mostly
and it
beef.
would probably kill you.
That's just a
but-
lot of beef.
We'd have
Yeah.
fun doing
Too much
it.
beef for one sandwich.
Yeah, so thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter at Retrograde Show. You can email us whenever you want at retrograde@psychon.org, and you can follow us and like us on Facebook. Just search for Retrograde and like us. You can also leave us a review if you enjoyed this show, amazingly, on iTunes. We'd like to say a quick thank you to at Ameriquai for writing a really nice review for us on iTunes as well. And lastly, we're back in 2 weeks. We're back full circle, guys. Back to me again. This will be the third time we've gone round the circle of picking games, and I've chosen Half-Life.
Oh, yeah.
Which is gonna, I don't know how that's gonna go
Do you
down.
want to tell
'cause
people why you chose Half-Life?
well, there's 2 reasons. It is actually probably my favourite. It's the most important video game to me in my life.
Oh, really? Oh,
That
this is going to be a
sounds-
fun one.
that
Bigger than
sounds
Transport
really-
Tycoon.
I wouldn't say it's my favourite. It's the most
Okay.
important. It got me into a lot of various forms of gaming, including multiplayer. And the thing is, this is cheating a bit because I'm also going to want to talk about the mods that came out of the
Yeah.
game, which you can't. Well, we'll talk about this in the show. You know, can a game's legacy be included in the game? But yeah, so Half-Life. Out of interest, have you guys all played Half-Life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Never.
Never. Awesome.
I don't like first-person shooters.
Yeah.
So this is going to be
You're
interesting.
going to hate
So
this
if
one.
you're listening out
Probably.
there and you've played Half-Life, please write into us and let us know what you think of the game as well, because we will talk about your opinions in the show. But yeah, thanks again for listening, and that's goodbye from me, Jack Marshall. A goodbye from Anthony Hobday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from James McFadyen.
Goodbye.
And a goodbye from Lysanne Fisher.